Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into something that, at first glance, might seem a little counterintuitive. We're going to be talking about giving and how giving can actually lead to success. We've got excerpts from Adam Grant's Give and Take. We've also got some additional research on just the power of generosity in general. Get ready, guys, for some serious aha moments, because what we've uncovered here is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so full disclosure, when I first picked up Give and Take, I have to admit I was a little skeptical of really, I mean, isn't success all about being assertive, maybe even a little bit ruthless?
I think that's a pretty common assumption.
Yeah.
But Grant, he actually kind of flips that whole script. He dives into this idea there being these three types of people,
Yeah.
You've got your givers, you've got your takers, and then you've got your matchers. And while he acknowledges that, yeah, there are definitely those super selfless givers out there who, they sadly end up getting taken advantage of, he makes a really compelling case for what he calls otherish giving.
Otherish giving.
Yeah.
Sounds like a kind of a made-up word.
It might, but it perfectly captures this idea of giving strategically, right? Like, you genuinely want to help other people succeed, but you also recognize that your own well-being, your own goals are important too. So it's kind of like finding that sweet spot between being, a doormat on the one hand and being like a ruthless competitor on the other.
Okay, so you're not saying that we should all become pushovers.
Not at all. In fact, Grant, he uses this great example of this venture capitalist named David Hornick to really illustrate this point. So Hornick, initially, he actually lost a deal because the entrepreneur thought that he was too nice. He was like, well, this guy's not going to push me hard enough. But then later on, that same entrepreneur saw how Hornick just went above and beyond to help other people. And he ended up recommending him for, all these other investments.
Wait a minute. So being too nice actually ended up helping him in the long run.
Exactly. It really boils down to trust, right?
Right.
His niceness wasn't some kind of facade. It was genuine.
Yeah.
And that ended up earning him this reputation that actually attracted more opportunities.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. But is there any data to back this up? Is this just a nice story, or did Grant actually,
No, he didn't just rely on anecdotes. He found this really fascinating pattern in his research. So when he looked at engineers, medical students, even salespeople, he found that the most and least productive people were actually givers. The folks in the middle, those average performers, they tended to be the takers and the matchers.
That is wild. Okay, so why would givers be at both ends of the spectrum?
Because giving, when it's done effectively, it builds this incredible trust and these amazing networks, right? So these givers create this reputation for being someone who genuinely wants to help others, and that can be a huge asset. But the less effective givers, they might be giving too much, maybe without setting boundaries, and that can lead to burnout or to, sadly being taken advantage of.
So otherish giving is about being generous, but also being smart about it.
Exactly. You're not just, throwing yourself out there blindly. You're being strategic. You're making sure your own needs are met as well. Think of it like this. You want to be a lighthouse, guiding others to success, but you don't want to, burn yourself out in the process.
I love that. That's such a good analogy. Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole giving thing can actually be a really powerful path to success and not a detriment. But does that mean we have to constantly be networking and, helping everyone all the time?
Not necessarily. So Grant highlights this story of Abraham Lincoln. He invited his rivals to be in his cabinet. Now, that might seem totally counterintuitive, but Lincoln, he understood the value of diverse perspectives, and he was a giver, even in that really cutthroat world of politics.
Wow. So even in those high-stakes situations, giving can be a winning strategy.
Absolutely. And it's especially relevant, I think, in today's workplace, where collaboration and information sharing are, more and more vital. Grant even dives into this really surprising power of powerless communication.
Powerless communication?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused here. Wouldn't that make you seem, powerless?
It might seem that way at first, but think about it. Powerless communication, it involves asking questions. It's about, talking tentatively, seeking advice. Basically, it's approaching communication with a sense of humility and genuine interest. And it might sound totally counterintuitive, but the research actually shows that it can be more persuasive than those traditional power poses and that assertive language.
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing. Do you think that it works because it kind of disarms people?
In a way, yeah. Powerless communication, it signals that you're genuinely interested in the other person, and that builds rapport. and it makes people way more receptive to your ideas. It makes them feel valued and heard, and that can be incredibly persuasive.
Yeah, that makes sense. It reminds me of this time I was asked to teach a group of Army generals about negotiation.
Wow. That must have been a little intimidating.
It was, but I knew that I was younger and less experienced than pretty much everyone in the room, so I kind of leaned into that. I admitted that I had a lot to learn from them. I asked a ton of questions about their experiences, and I just presented my material with a real sense of humility.
So what was their reaction?
Oh, they loved it. They found me authentic. They found me engaging. They were like, this is someone we actually want to learn from. And, it was this really powerful lesson for me in the unexpected power of, well, being a little bit powerless.
It's amazing how sometimes admitting what you don't know can actually make you a more effective leader and communicator.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, it seems like this whole giving thing really flips the script on what we think we know about success, right? It's about building these genuine relationships, adding value to others, not just focusing on what we can take. But, let's be real. We all know people who have burned out or gotten taken advantage of because they're just too generous.
Absolutely. And Grant, he addresses that head on. He shares this really powerful story about a teacher named Conry Callahan. She nearly burned out from just how dedicated she was to her students. But she found this way to recharge by chunking her giving.
Chunking, like how I eat my family-sized bag of chips in carefully measured portions.
Well, kind of. But in this context, it's about focusing on specific acts of giving that bring you joy and that give you a sense of impact. So it's not about trying to do everything for everyone all the time. And Conry also started giving back to other teachers, which helped her to feel, connected and supported.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Like being generous, but without sacrificing your own well-being in the process. Which kind of brings up another question. How do we avoid being taken advantage of by those takers?
That's where sincerity screening comes in. So Grant talks about learning to identify takers before they can take advantage of you.
Okay, so how do you spot a taker? Like, do they have a secret handshake or something?
Not quite, but they do tend to leak clues. So pay attention to how people talk about themselves. Do they focus on, me, or do they focus on we? Are they constantly self-promoting, or are they genuinely interested in, building connections?
That's really helpful. So it's about being aware, paying attention to those little subtle cues.
Exactly. And Grant, he doesn't just offer anecdotal evidence. He backs his claims up with research. Did you know that studies have actually shown that giving can boost income by a factor of 3.75?
Wait, what? Giving makes you richer. That's crazy.
It might sound counterintuitive, but it comes down to, again, trust and reputation. When you're known as a giver, people are more likely to want to work with you, want to do business with you, and they're going to recommend you to others. It really opens up all these doors that you might never have imagined.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's not just about the money, right? Like giving can have this positive ripple effect on all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. It's linked to, increased happiness. It's linked to reduced stress and even improved health. It's really a win-win.
Okay, I have to admit, I'm starting to see the light here. Giving, when it's done right, it isn't about being, weak or naive. It's about strategically building relationships, adding value to others, and ultimately achieving your own goals as well. But what about those times when we have to negotiate for what we want? Can you really be a giver and a strong negotiator at the same time?
That's a great question, and one that Grant actually tackles head on. He actually talks about the concept of generous tit for tat.
Generous tit for tat.
Right.
What is that?
So it's this negotiation strategy where you start by being generous, right?
Yeah.
But then you kind of adjust your approach based on how the other person responds.
Yeah.
So if they reciprocate, great. You keep giving, you keep being generous. But if they start taking advantage, then, you pull back a little bit.
So it's kind of like a give and take approach to negotiation.
Exactly.
Okay.
It allows you to be a giver without being a pushover.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not letting people walk all over you, but you are strategically using generosity to build relationships and create those win-win situations.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's like you're showing people how you want to be treated by treating them well first.
Right.
But what if you're dealing with someone who's just, out to get as much as they can? Like, how does that work?
Well, Grant, he actually shares this really fascinating story about this NBA player named Derek.
Okay.
Who was known as like this ruthless negotiator.
Oh.
Yeah, he had this reputation for being really aggressive and just taking as much as he could at the bargaining table.
That sounds like the opposite of a giver.
Right. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then Derek had this epiphany, and he realized that his cutthroat approach was actually hurting his relationships
Oh,
and his long-term success.
interesting.
So he started experimenting with a more, otherish approach.
So what did he do? Did he like suddenly start giving away millions of dollars?
Well, not exactly, but in one negotiation, he tore up a contract
Oh, wow.
and gave the other party more money than they were expecting.
Whoa. Talk about a power move.
Right.
But did it backfire?
Not at all.
Wow.
So the agent was so blown away by Derek's generosity that he ended up giving Derek's team this really valuable lead later on.
Wow. So it really paid off.
Yeah, it was a perfect example of how giving, even in this hyper-competitive environment, can create these unexpected benefits.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. It seems like when we let go of that need to win at all costs, we actually open ourselves up to greater success in the long run.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
And this goes beyond, just business deals.
Yeah.
Grant talks about how women who are often, socialized to be givers can sometimes be a little too accommodating in negotiations.
Oh, that is so true. I've definitely fallen into that trap myself.
Yeah, it's a common struggle.
Yeah.
But Grant, he provides some really useful strategies for overcoming it.
Okay.
He highlights the power of relational accounts.
Relational accounts.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
So basically, it's explaining that you're pushing back, not because you're being greedy or anything like that,
Right.
but because you have a responsibility to others.
Oh, okay.
So, for instance, you might say something like, I can't give you a discount on this because I have to be fair to my other clients.
Right.
Or, I'd love to take on this extra project, but I've already committed to helping my team with something else.
That's so smart. It allows you to be assertive while still, honoring those values as a giver.
Exactly. It's about finding that delicate balance, right, between advocating for yourself and staying true to that generous spirit. But Grant also acknowledges that, sometimes even when we have the best intentions, we can still run into challenges.
Like what?
Well, he dives into this age-old question, is true altruism even possible?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he presents this fascinating debate between these two psychologists who have spent their entire careers studying giving.
Okay.
One of them argues that all giving is ultimately motivated by self-interest,
Okay.
while the other believes that true empathy can lead to, purely selfless acts.
So is it nature or nurture? Are we born selfish, or can we actually learn to be truly giving?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And the truth is, there's evidence to support both sides, right? We've all experienced those moments where we give to make ourselves feel good or to get something in return.
Right.
But there are also countless examples of people giving selflessly, even sacrificially, without any expectation of personal gain.
That's true.
So it's really complex.
It's almost like there's a spectrum of giving.
Yeah.
Right, from those purely self-serving acts to those that are, truly selfless.
Exactly.
But if we're wired for self-preservation,
Right.
how do we cultivate that genuine desire to give without expecting anything in return?
Well, Grant suggests that it starts with shifting our perspective.
Okay.
He tells this story of John Huntsman Sr., the billionaire philanthropist,
Yeah.
who donated this huge chunk of his fortune to charity.
Right.
Now, you might assume that he got rich and then decided to give back.
That's usually how the story goes.
Right, exactly.
But you're suggesting there's more to it.
Exactly. So Grant proposes that maybe it was the other way around. Maybe Huntsman's giving actually contributed to his success.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind here. Are you saying that giving is this secret ingredient to wealth and happiness?
Well, it's not a guarantee, of course.
Right.
But there's this growing body of research that suggests that giving has these really profound effects on our well-being.
Yeah.
Did you know that studies have actually shown that elderly adults who volunteer or provide support to others, they actually live longer?
Wait, seriously, giving can help you live longer. I need to sign up for some volunteer work, yesterday.
I know, it's incredible, right?
It's amazing.
And it's not just about the social interaction. One study found that people who gave massages to babies had lower levels of stress hormones than those who received massages.
Wow. So giving literally has a positive impact on our, physiology. That makes me think about how we, measure success in general.
Yeah.
Maybe those traditional metrics, money, status, power, they're missing a huge piece of the puzzle.
You're hitting on a really key point here. So Grant argues that we need to expand our definition of success to include things like meaning, purpose, impact on others. It's not just about what you accumulate,
Yeah.
but it's about the positive difference that you make in the world.
This is making me seriously rethink my priorities.
Yeah.
If giving has all these amazing benefits, why aren't we all doing it more?
Right.
What holds us back?
Well, for one, I think we often get caught up in this this scarcity mindset, this belief that there's just not enough to go around.
Oh, yeah.
We worry that if we give too much, we'll be left with nothing.
Right.
But that's not always true.
No.
Sometimes giving can actually create more abundance. Think about it. When you give generously, you're not just helping others. You're also building relationships, you're expanding your network, and you're creating this ripple effect of generosity. It's like planting seeds that can grow into something much bigger than yourself.
I love that analogy. It's like we're all part of this interconnected web, and our acts of giving can have these far-reaching consequences.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get practical for a moment.
Right.
What are some concrete things that our listeners can do to become more effective givers? Where do we even start?
Well, Grant offers a ton of practical advice.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite suggestions is this idea of 5-minute favors.
5-minute favors.
Right.
That sounds pretty manageable.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me more.
So it's exactly what it sounds like. Small acts of kindness that you can easily incorporate into your daily life.
Okay.
Things like, offering honest feedback, making an introduction between two people who might benefit from knowing each other.
Yeah.
Or just, reaching out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while just to see how they're doing.
It's amazing how much impact we can have with just a little bit of effort.
It really is.
Yeah.
And those small acts of kindness, they can really add up to create a big difference. Grant also talks about the importance of celebrating givers, like making their contributions visible and inspiring others to follow their lead.
So it's like shifting the spotlight from the takers to the givers, right?
Right.
Showing people that generosity is a strength, not a weakness.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are also ways to create a more giving culture on a larger scale, right?
Sure.
In our workplaces or our communities.
Absolutely. So Grant talks about the power of reciprocity rings, where people come together to, share requests and offer help.
Okay.
He also highlights the importance of organizational support for giving. So things like, peer recognition programs,
Right.
or opportunities for employees to, volunteer their time and skills.
It seems like giving is contagious, right? When we see other people being generous,
Yeah.
it kind of inspires us to do the same. But how do we ensure that our giving is genuine?
Right.
And not just performative? How do we avoid falling into that trap of giving just to get something in return?
That's a great question, and one that Grant explores through this fascinating concept called optimal distinctiveness. It's this idea that we're all kind of drawn to groups that offer us this sense of both belonging and uniqueness.
Okay.
We want to feel connected to others, but we also want to feel, special.
Yeah.
We want to be able to express our individuality.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's we're all looking for that sweet spot between fitting in and standing out.
Exactly.
But how does that relate to giving?
Well, Grant, he uses this example of FreeCycle.
FreeCycle.
Which is, that online community where people give away things that they no longer need.
Right.
It's a perfect example of how optimal distinctiveness can really fuel this culture of giving.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about how FreeCycle works.
Sure. So first off, it's built on this idea of generalized reciprocity.
Okay.
So you give to help others in the community, knowing that someone else will eventually give to you in return,
Right.
even if it's not the same person that you helped.
So it's like a giant, pay it forward network.
Exactly.
I love that.
But how does the uniqueness part come into play?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. FreeCycle allows people to express their individuality
Okay.
through the things that they give away and the things that they request.
Okay.
So it's this incredible marketplace
Yeah.
of unique items and diverse needs,
Mm.
all connected by this shared commitment to giving and receiving.
It's like this giant virtual garage sale where everyone wins.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And what's fascinating is that the research shows that people are actually more likely to give to those who share unique similarities.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for instance, one study found that people were more likely to give microloans to borrowers who shared their first initials, or
Wow.
their occupations.
That's wild. So even something as small as like a shared initial can create a sense of connection
Yeah.
and inspire giving.
It really can.
That's amazing.
It all comes back to that human need for belonging and feeling like we're part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
And when we find that group where we feel both connected and unique, we're just more likely to give generously.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to apply this concept to my workplace.
Mhm.
How could I use optimal distinctiveness to like foster a culture of giving?
Well, you could start by, identifying some shared values or goals that unite your team.
Okay.
It could be, a commitment to excellence, a passion for innovation, or simply a desire to make a positive impact on the world.
Right, so that creates that sense of belonging, but
Yeah.
how do we tap into the uniqueness piece?
You could create opportunities for people to express their unique skills and talents within that shared context. Maybe
Right.
you host like a giving fair where people can showcase their hobbies and passions.
Oh, that's cool.
Or you set up a system for like peer-to-peer mentoring,
Okay.
allowing people to, share their expertise and help others develop their skills.
That's a brilliant idea. It creates this space where people feel, both connected to the group and valued for their individual contributions.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate those unique contributions,
Yeah.
make them visible, acknowledge them publicly, and inspire others to follow their lead.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
It's really challenged, honestly, my assumptions about giving and success.
I think that's the case for a lot of people
Yeah.
when they first encountered this research.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how generosity, when it's done right, can be this really powerful force for good, not just for others,
Right.
but for ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
This has been amazing. It's been a pleasure diving into these ideas with you.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And a huge thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope you found it as inspiring and thought-provoking as we have.
We hope so.
Now, before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a little challenge,
Okay.
something to ponder as you go about your day.
Right.
If you could make one 5-minute favor offer each week, what would it be?
Yeah. Think about that.
Remember, even those small acts of kindness can have that ripple effect.
They really can.
So go out there, be a giver, and see what amazing things happen.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.